Welcome to the Throwback Guitar Lounge podcast, episode number 61.
61.
We're piling through them. The guitar argument this
Piling
week.
through them.
Well, they're amassing.
They're much more refined than that, aren't they?
Yeah, no, there's hard work that goes into these. The guitar argument today, we're going to do a lightning round because that's what we felt like doing.
That's exciting.
It is exciting because we get to cover
We don't know what the topics are.
interesting topics, timely topics that will be of interest to our viewers. And what else we've got going in different segments? We're going to do a themed Rorschach riffs.
You're doing them.
Yes, I came up with this Rorschach riff to celebrate the 33rd studio album release by the Rolling Stones.
Okay, that they announced that recently.
The rock and roll octogenarians who never stop. So
Okay,
we're gonna do some riffs.
All right, and you think Paul will know these?
Paul, everybody will know.
Okay,
these.
well, Paul's here. He's
Yeah.
right there. He's making P90s.
Cool.
And we have an addition to the show. Well, actually, I don't think he's brave enough to get on camera
he is.
yet.
He'll overcome
It's-
that fear.
It's one of my children, Chris. He is doing some summer work. There's his hand. Well, it's a start.
Soon
it's a
he'll
start
All we
towards
got
the
was your
future.
hand, Chris.
It's a start towards the future in show business. Ask him if he's brave enough to put his face in front of the camera.
Are you brave enough to put your face in front of the camera?
Now, this kid's a college student, so you'd think he'd say yes. The answer appears to be no. Okay, well, you got to take these in baby steps.
Well, but one day he'll be running this podcast, so I didn't. He's probably.
Okay.
This is his inheritance. Does he know
Well,
that?
I'm proud of his gloved hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Chris.
Some people, some other entertainers started it off with a gloved hand too, so maybe that's bigger things to come. I was thinking Michael Jackson.
Okay. That's it. You're right. Well, Paul is making P90s, and Chris is cleaning short leg bass plates right now.
Short leg ones, okay.
Yes, because they come from the stamper with the machining oil on them, and you got to clean it off with a microfiber cloth. So
That's an important job.
it is an important job. So we can thank Chris for that and Paul for the P90s. Okay. We've got viewer mail. Should
Yes,
we get
we
right
do.
to that?
Let's
Okay.
get right into it.
Let's get right to that here. Move my little camera switcher closer. Okay, Matthew. What do we have?
Viewer mail from episode number 60, where we proposed that this was now the end of the tube amplifier. We struck a nerve with our viewers.
We did.
And
Kind of hurt me a little bit. Just kind of my soul. How about you?
Well,
Yes. But you play bass, so tubes are long gone for that.
It's all digital, so
It's all digital or solid state. I mean, the tubes they went by what the SVT is your.
the SVT is nice though.
And you get the Ampeg. What do you call the thing with the flip out amp?
Well, if I had access to a Rode and what have you, the SVT is what you want to have. I mean, that thing does sound great with a 8x10, wall of the big huge cabinet 810.
Okay,
that's the one to get. But for our audience and for the people who watch the show, this was an issue that they were clearly willing to die on.
Was it that strong?
Yes. No, one went as far to comment that he will be buried with his original 65 Super Reverb.
That's right.
So,
well, that's dedication. It's a great tone. Why not have that forever?
You want to be the person who's the last one to see that person before they close the casket. Then you can go.
You got to get a pretty big casket, though, don't you?
Well, you just take that amp out of there. And then was it in there? You see, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And there was another comment. I found this interesting. They said that the Tone Master solid pine cabinets will eventually house tube chassis.
Oh, that's the I did see that one. That people will. I guess that's a possibility, isn't it?
Yeah,
Someone
it's
the tone master will go kaput at some point,
yeah,
and someone will put like a Mojitone, or there will be a market for putting a real tube head in your expired tone master.
yeah.
That's actually not a crazy idea.
No, I assume it can work.
Yeah,
They look- they look-
I would assume it'd fit right in there.
So that's
Oh,
that. We'll see who's going to bury who at the end of the day.
okay. Is that it? Are there more?
That was the general gist of the messages that in comments that I read. It was all really. They were enthused about the topic, but I think incensed also at the same time.
Yes. It's a tough topic.
But at the
It's
same,
a tradition. It's a tradition. The tube amp's a tradition
yes,
for good reason.
yeah,
It's not arbitrary.
no,
It's not that we stop. We don't like the fashion of the top hat anymore. It's not that. It's the whole tone related with that setup. Okay, is that it?
that's all I've got for.
All right, we're going to do
mail.
pickups of the week. This week we are going to do the KZ115 set with long A2. We've done this before, but I put them in a historic reissue this week. So we're kind of comparing apples to apples. I have them in a Heritage H150, which is a very nice guitar. But no, sorry. Yes, a Heritage H150. But that one has a Tone Master bridge, or Tone Pros bridge, a Tone Master on the brain. But it has a Tone Pros bridge. And it's not really quite the same setup as a historic reissue Les Paul. So I put them in a historic reissue Les Paul Gold Top. We will play that. And I will also show I think I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to give the pickup height adjustment measurements so people can have that info. So I'll get the guitar here. We'll be right back and we will play that. Be right back. Okay, we are back. Mm-hmm. We're back with pickups of the week. Again, we are going to play the KZ 115 set with long A2 magnets. These come with long A2 as standard, but they can also be purchased with long A4 or long A5. And at some point, I think we ought to do sort of versus pickup comparisons. Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure people are going to ask, how does this set, which is 7.7K neck and 7.57K bridge, differ from the 57 steelhead, which has steelhead mounting screws, but is also in the same resistance range, which is 7.5 bridge and 7.3 neck. And how does that differ from the DT102, which into the 57 steelhead comes in A4 and long dry A2? And how does that differ from a DT102 set, which is 7.7K neck and 7.9K bridge? They all sound different, but we need to do some A/B pickup comparisons, kind of versus in Les Pauls, and we have purchased enough of these Les Pauls that I think we should be able to do that in a reasonable manner in terms of similar guitars, similar weight. This is a 2025 historic reissue Les Paul Gold Top. I got this from Eddie's Guitars. They've been very nice to deal with. Now I will hand it to Gibson with these. Minus the pickups, which are very good, but I mean, you won't be surprised to say that we say ours are a improvement. There are details of this guitar which they really have kind of upgraded the vintage specs, and this does have butyrate rings. These are not our butyrate rings. These are the ones that came with the guitar. I think they're very nice. They have a pickguard that does not match the rings, which is actually pretty typical of a 57 era Les Paul, or 58 and 59. So it's a little cream pickguard bone rings. It does have Lux Bumblebee capacitors. I did not switch out the harness in this. The pots in this are in the 450K range. So the tolerance is falling below 500. Our harnesses are vintage in that spec, in that they tolerance for our pots fall above 500K, which is more typical of vintage. But for the purposes of these, I usually keep the stock harness with the Lux Bumblebee capacitors, because this is what most people are going to, get with their stock guitar. But if you wanted to tweak the treble response up further, you could switch that out. But all in all, very nice guitar. Let's and I mentioned that I was going to I'm going to start giving the height adjustment for these pickups. The neck pickup, the way I do height adjustment is all my guitars are set with an action of the open strings being 2 millimeters at the 12th fret. That's a pretty typical measurement from either Fender or Gibson for a stock off-the-shelf American-made guitar. Historic reissue, Fender Custom Shop, maybe Custom Shop might be a little lower, or American-made Telecaster Strat. I just am used to that and have always been. So that is the action with all of these guitars. The measurement for the pickups is done with the open string with that action. So keep that in mind. I'm not fretting this at like the 14th fret and then measuring at the top of the pickup. So these measurements are from the top of the pull screw to the bottom of the string on the high and low E. Pull screws for these pickups right now are flat, with the crown just slightly sticking above the cover. So the measurements here are 4 millimeters for the neck pickup on the high and low E strings for the height adjustment for the neck pickup, and for the bridge 2.5 millimeters for the high and low E strings. That's for the set. And I have some guitars where I have this pickup height higher, particularly for the bridge pickup. An example would be the 52 Steelhead is a bit higher than this. These sound better to me with a lower bridge pickup height. So I played this at practice the other night, and compared it to the 57 Steelhead. And I think these are a little bit more. This is going to sound well. No, actually, this may not sound weird to people. These sounded more reverby. Through the amp, it literally sounded more like it had more reverb. Some pickups are kind of like that, but compared to an A2 version, let's say of the Steelhead, 57 Steelhead with a dry A2, these are a little fatter sounding, which is one reason I lowered the bridge pickup a little bit. Is that kind of helps balance the low to high tone out a little bit. And again, I need to do an A-B comparison between the two, but all in all, very nice set for if you're interested in a low output set. And these were copied. If you go to the 57 or no, the KZ115 page, there's a Doug and Pat video where they compare Alnico 2, Alnico 4, and Alnico 5 in the same guitar with these pickups. The resistance that we made these years ago as sort of an exercise in duplicating, kind of give it our take on what the resistance was in the pickups they had for their Oscar Gold Top, which is a 58 Gold Top. These are wound with both bobbins on the KZ LP115 winder, which is the winder out of the Fender not the Fender, the Gibson factory. We also have the
What's the name
Fullerton 457 winder,
right?
Which is out of the Fender factory. We got them out of both of the biggest factories on the planet for historical important guitar pickups.
You threw it out of my mind. What's the name of the street that they're located
Gibson?
in? Yeah, that's
Parsons.
Parsons, 225 Parsons.
Yeah.
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Okay, so let's play these, Matthew. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's let me get situated here. All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Right, let's go. We'd start over. You're supposed to start, aren't you?
I started it. Okay, ready.
Okay, yeah.
Very nice.
I kind of got off track there several times. But
You have to study Freddie King.
yeah.
Get back on track with that.
So I would kind of describe these as kind of wiry sounding. Oh, so, gotta stay on the right frets there, Matthew.
Wiry, not wily.
No. Very noticeable in the middle position. Okay. All right, Matthew, should we put the guitars away and we will, well, you're right there. We're going to go to the guitar argument here next for the lightning round.
Do the lightning round, sure.
Okay, let's put the guitars away. We'll be right back with the lightning round. All right, we're back. Matthew has got our little bin of of Guitar Argument lightning round questions. Now, should we do 5 minutes, or do we just like wing this? We're not. It's more than one subject, so
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
put the 5 on because then we'll know.
okay.
We should do them pretty quick.
it's 5 right now.
Okay,
Go.
ready? All right. This may be a setup. I'm not sure. Has artificial intelligence already changed guitar playing? AI tabs, AI backing tracks, AI recording assistants. Is this a positive revolution? I may have set you up on that one because it seems to be your favorite topic
What, AI?
as of late. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, as it relates to guitar, I think the guitar sounds weird. I will describe it as like if you listen to something that's blues. To me, it sounds like the bends are a mixture between a bend and a slide with a bottle.
So you're thinking of like
The
AI
dynamics are
music?
not quite right.
This is
for
AI music, like you
AI
listen
music.
to. Okay, so you're on Spotify.
So is that
or
what you're
something?
talking about? The actual music itself?
No,
I
well,
don't think it
it's
has
open to-
duplicated guitar well.
I
It
think-
seems to do very good at voices, very well at voices. Like there's these Van Halen ones out there that, for all the world, sounds like David Lee Roth. I think even the inflections and sort of the weird, well, I won't say weird, distinctive delivery that he has, it really nails it. I'm just thinking about the sort of Van Halen esque AI songs. The guitar, the Eddie Van Halen stuff, it's just like way too many notes. It's not. It's not. It doesn't have the. It does not have sort of the nuance of a real great guitar player down
Right.
at all. And then it overdoes stuff. Okay, that's my impression for that.
Okay. Now I didn't think about it that way. When I read this, I looked at it as is it changed? Okay, the question: has artificial intelligence already changed guitar playing? And I think maybe the way I looked at it was that they're looking at it as a teaching or a way of learning more, or
Okay.
developing yourself as a player.
If I had to guess if there was a change right now, I would think the change would be negative. And I will make this comparison. So my background before I kind of did these at the same time. For quite a while, my main income was commercial photography. And then I started this years ago, like in 2002, as a side business, just because I enjoyed doing it. And the nature of the photography business was there were, periods of very concentrated work and then periods of waiting for work to come in. And this was like the perfect thing to fill those gaps. The photography analogy is that when digital photography came along, it made accessibility to high quality images easier. Photoshop did this too. So prior to Photoshop and digital photography, high quality imagery required ideally a high resolution picture, which you would take on a view camera. So 4x film, for example, which is when I started out, was standard. And then it would require also as many in-camera effects as possible, and then as clean an imagery production as possible. So get all the dust out of the shot. You're not retouching it out with Photoshop and all that. Because when I first started, Photoshop wasn't even really a thing. It was a large printers would have a large Israeli-made sort of computer system that took up the whole, I forgot what it's called. It took up the whole room. I've seen them. They would do a laser scan of a transparency on a drum, and then they would basically do a tone stamp, or not a tone stamp, a clone stamp.
Okay.
It could do that, but you would pay a very high, hefty hourly rate for that. And I think it could do color adjustment also. That all changed when Photoshop came along. And what it did, it made high quality imagery more accessible to the amateur, but it didn't actually improve the technique required to make high quality imagery. It it made the technical aspect of getting a color balanced, high resolution image with digital photography as well. It kind of neutralized the Photoshop, neutralized the retouching, the digital camera neutralized the kind of color filtration and equipment requirement. Oh, wow. I'm talking on and on. An equipment requirement
I'm waiting
to get a high quality image, right?
Go ahead.
So the way I described it is that I would go, make cold calls to clients, and eventually I knew something's up when they would say like, well, why should we hire you? Bob works here. He's got a really nice digital camera and he's a shutterbug. We could have him do it for free. And I'd be like, you could. And a lot of people did do that. But what they get is a high resolution, high quality image that's relatively color balanced, but compositionally and lighting wise, the standard's way down
Right.
from what it used to be. So I think the argument with AI would be, since it doesn't have these nuances down for the guitar playing, that a great guitar player is part of like a great guitar player like Eddie Van Halen, that the standard to what people expect to hear or use as a gauge for a reference is now low, is going to incrementally lower. That's my guess. If the state of it today, if you're using it as a teaching tool.
So you don't think that it'll develop people? Because one of the ideas that you talked about it, but one of the ideas that you could use it for a substitute kind of backing band.
Okay.
So then you can get your timing down and develop your skills as doing lead work and things like that, or rhythm work.
Yes. So I would say if you were, this is how I imagine it will work. If you're intermediate to advanced player, or even a beginning player, there will be a huge advantage to using lessons from someone like Tim Pierce or Jeff Meckerlane, or any of these, really great guitar players that have good lesson plans online. But once you've kind of reached the intermediate level and you kind of understand what sort of the dynamics of the instrument are and what the tone possibilities are, then I'm looking forward to having the possibility to, like, we get together every week, ideally, to play with band. But what if you want to have you don't have a band available, or you're not able to get together? If there is a possibility for a backing band, and even at some point a band, and now this is in the future, but maybe a band that you can improvise with that's AI, that I think actually ultimately produces more advanced guitar players that are looking for a real band. And the upshot of that will be that there will be more people who want to play live music. That's my hope. I think that would be really cool. Also, it'll make it easier to kind of do a demo and have it be high quality. That's my hope. Okay. We spent a lot of time on that. Should we do another?
Yes. You have to ask me a question now. So.
All right. Okay, Matthew. Has the guitar community become too negative online?
I think, I think they have, and I think it's a result of these algorithms that encourage people to post things.
Those damn computers, isn't it?
Well, it's because they want to get clicks, so
I just became negative there.
See,
you're saying it's negative because of the negativity of the algorithms. You fall into that trap just with your own guitar argument.
Because people want to get clicks, so they put in headlines that are, and sometimes the headline doesn't even relate to really what the topic is about, and it makes it sound like it's doom and gloom all the time. But it's like someone putting something like is the air of the tube amp over people know that the bait for getting views is the negativity. Yeah.
It's probably true.
And it just drives
So
a downward spiral of anxiety and desperation.
yeah.
And
So how do we change that?
I think we should just resolve ourselves right now that we'll always be
negative.
positive. No, we're not going to be negative.
Well, we want the views.
Well, what if you became like the go-to place? Because these guys are always putting a positive spin on everything. Wouldn't people? And then you could change the whole culture.
Should this be the clickbait for the thumbnail for this episode?
Yes.
What would it be? Guitar. Guitar 2 negative. Guitar community 2 negative.
Or it could be the future of guitar
Smile while playing the guitar.
is positive vibes.
No. Okay. Should we do another one?
Sure. I'll pull one out here. Let me see
Okay.
see what this one is. No, we can't do that one. That one's that was too similar to the last one. And puts this one.
Okay.
The influencer effect. Do guitar influencers help players make better gear decisions?
Ooh.
For more information than ever against too many sponsored opinions. Do guitar influencers help players make better gear decisions? I think some do. I think,
Have we asked this one before?
well, they kind of like, maybe, but I think if you're interested in a certain piece of gear, like say it's brand new, like somebody like Phil McKnight, who's going to like pull a guitar apart, or the guitar troggly guy who's going to, they literally,
Take
measure
every piece of
everything
it apart,
and put what's the little camera called that goes inside, and they'll put it through a hollow body, and you get to see the construction of some of these hollow body guitars and see what's going inside.
Well, I'm sure I said it before, but like with magazines, as a teen, I thought like, oh, the editor's pick award. That means this is great. They have the full backing and authority of the journalistic credentials of Guitar Player magazine. These guys know what they're doing. I should have that.
Heck, I was buying that well into my 30s.
And the dirty little secret is there's an unwritten rule that the people getting those are, they're going to advertise. Their advertising is always tied into this in some way, usually. Either current advertising or future advertising dollars. At least that's what it used to be. And so the question is the influencer prone to this? Or are they freed from it?
I would think some of the big influencers today are freed from it. I mean, they've how many of them are on record now that the CEO of Fender should resign over this whole body issue and copyright issue in Germany. I mean, Rick Beato is, Rhett Shull is, so I guess their relationship with Fender is tenuous right now. I think that's the other thing that I'm watching to sort of say. We haven't followed the issue too much, but because you can be overdone with the whole Fender thing and they're suing everybody. But who's going to win that one? We threw the idea out that the influencer, I think, is maybe a bigger net plus that the people like Fender were not really recognizing, that they haven't quite understood exactly the position these people have in the community.
Yeah, so the influencer is paid with views. Plus, they're often paid with affiliate links.
Right.
But the affiliate links end up being an incentive for them to recommend good products.
Yeah,
because they want people buying them. They don't want to recommend something that is going to get comments where this thing is terrible. So the influencer does have an incentive to recommend high quality, good products. And the magazine model had an incentive to recommend products that would bring in the most advertising dollars over long term, and their subscriber base is people either buying off of a newsstand, so not subscribed, or with a subscription of a year time span. And that's more of a stable model as far as, if you bought Editor's Pick guitar or something, some recommended item, and you didn't like it, would you be saying, I'm going to cancel my magazine subscription? Probably not. But the influencer, they want the views and they want the audience, and that can come and go very quickly. So they're incentivized to really give good advice.
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Phil McKnight from the Know Your Gear podcast he had put it out that he was just going to go, his idea was just to go and be subscription based, and he would just make it available to his Patreon viewers.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's true, isn't it?
I think it was something like that, like any sort of gear. Well, I know he was going to do that. I think he had mentioned that with repairs and stuff. Was it like all the content would be that way?
That's why I understood. Maybe I was wrong.
Yeah. I know that he was. I think I've heard him talk about it in the context of that sort of setups, repairs. That would only be available to, or even sort of like taking guitars apart. Mm-hmm. That would be only available to Patreon's members. But now it's a mix of that.
I think he said the viewers or the Patreon people said no, they didn't mind that he was putting that up for general consumption. So I think they get it a bit earlier, and they can. There's slight differences, I think, for Patreon sort of subscribers.
Yeah, when you think about it, the magazine, when it comes to equipment, it's more of a it's really more of an advertising driven thing, I think. And whereas an influencer, it is sort of more like, how does this affect me, this piece of equipment, and in turn, how will it affect you as a guitar player if you have it? Okay, let's do one more. Let me have a go at it here, Matthew. Did you put the one back in there that you just did?
I've taken another here.
Okay.
Or maybe I did put the one in, maybe pull that one out.
The YouTube tone problem. Can you really judge guitar tone through YouTube videos? For my, let's see. Okay. So I guess this is like, you get this. This is a standard comment people say. It's like, you're hearing something that's compressed through YouTube's algorithm, and so you can't really judge. Would you have an opinion on that?
I guess I don't really look at it like that. I just look at it as this is like an introduction, and I don't really expect to listen to it with a lot of specificity. I guess if I used headphones, but I usually don't use headphones when I'm watching YouTube. But
well, if you think about it in terms of that, this is the platform everybody has to listen to this stuff through. There's a baseline, and it's YouTube's processing of it. So as long as you're, you're comparing everything through that filter of whatever they do to process it, I think that's as useful and valid a comparison as you're going to get anywhere else. Do
they make announcements? They must have improved sound quality over the life of the.
I think the sound quality is quite good, really.
I do.
It does seem to improve. I think you do get a bit of improvement if, let's say, your phone is set to like 720p resolution. I think if you bump it up to 4K or even 1080p, I think you get a little bit of improvement in the audio quality as well. But, I think it's actually an advantage that everything is processed through YouTube. Because And I would bet it increases sort of the standard of the audio that you're providing to YouTube. But the fact that you already have a standardized platform like YouTube that processes all of the audio the same way, isn't that an advantage for comparing? Because you have that one common processing of the audio for everything.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems to make sense.
It's a common complaint, but I think it's kind of empty in the sense that, of course, with anything, the ultimate sort of judge of it is you with your setup. But in terms of comparing things that you might be considering buying, I think it's super useful.
Oh, yeah. No.
And I don't think the processing part of it is a problem. I will say that when we started doing this podcast, it's not super easy to figure out what the best way is to process the audio on our end to have it be in the best sort of levels and such to get the best quality from YouTube's processing. I figured it out, but it actually it's not as straightforward as you'd hope.
Yeah, you worked at it for a while.
Yeah, you had to watch a lot of videos, and then it's like depends upon what you're using to edit. But I mean, the info's out there. But even with all that, if you just uploaded something from your phone, it's still going to sound pretty good. Mm-hmm. But yeah, okay. Is that you think that does it for the guitar argument?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we could.
Okay, so we're going. Well, we already did the cool down. I guess we incorporated that into the guitar argument, and we're going to go to your Rorschach riffs, Matthew.
Okay.
And Paul, you're there still.
I am.
I've heard the phone ringing. Did you answer any of this stuff?
No,
that's fine.
I didn't think you wanted me to.
Is it the same person?
Yes, probably.
Okay. All right.
I didn't hear that.
Okay. Now this is not a complaint. So if the person watching this,
you know, who you are.
if the person calling is watching, don't take it personally. But so I think when we started this, we were expecting a call back, and not surprisingly, we really don't take calls while we're recording this. But it was a question, and this is not an unusual question to get through an email, but it's someone who's purchased something used, could be pickups, could be a pedal, and they have questions about it as if they have purchased it new and it's not doing what their preconceived expectations were of it.
Do you know that this person has purchased something that's used?
Yeah, because I think Paul talked to him previously, and so. Oh, hold on, Paul's talking.
But a different.
Say what?
Oh, he might have called, but a different person called too.
Oh, okay. Well, the upshot is we didn't have time to call this guy back about his question, but his question ultimately was concerning a used item that and we're going we're happy to be helpful, but the part of the used item is that with pickups, it's not unusual for people to do something, let's say, like remove the covers. Mm-hmm. And then they might put them back on to resell them, and they might not be the same covers. Ours are very expensive. You can only get them from Throwback. And if they're installed improperly, you might have feedback issues. So that'd just be one example. Or we have a jig to very precisely do this, and our covers fit perfectly. So if someone starts monkeying with that, or the magnets, it's not unusual for people to take the magnets out because our magnets are expensive, and they put some other magnet in there. And now we don't know but they have changed now the sound of the pickup. Or with our pedals, we have always offered a high amount of adjustability for anybody that wanted to experiment with the trim pods. Then someone experiments with them, and then someone's purchased a used pedal. This is the hazard of getting the used one. And they will, with the pedals as an example, we will get questions like, what is the voltage this should be set at? And the truth is, we do it by ear. I do it by ear. So anyway, there's a limit. When I buy something used, that's kind of the expectation that I go into purchasing it, is that you're not getting something new. And like if I purchased an amp, I'm not expecting it to have the original tubes it came with. And then I don't have any expectation that tube amp is going to be properly biased. That would just be an example. Mm-hmm. And there's kind of a limit to what information we can do to help a person out if they have a used piece of equipment and,
Maybe we could incorporate this into the show, and we could have we can take calls online.
Hey, I guess you could. Yeah.
Just mid-show, you could just say,
yeah. Okay.
Throwback
That's
customer
not,
service.
again, that's not a complaint. In fact, a real plus of the pickups and pedals is they hold their value quite well in the used market. So I totally understand why people buy them used. But another thing is, people cut the leads short for the pickups. We don't have a business of extending those leads. In fact, I'm going to do a video where it shows how to just splice on an extra lead to bridge, to extend it. It doesn't look perfect. It works perfectly well, but people often want their used pickup to look like a new pickup. We don't offer that as a service. We're making the stuff, but we're not disassembling stuff and rejuvenating to make it look new. I mean, there just wouldn't be. It wouldn't be profitable for us, and people would not want to pay the price that it would be required in order for us to get a pickup, take it apart, disassemble the entire thing so we could replace the lead and then put it back together. It'd be cost prohibitive for everybody involved. So
there's no guarantee that we're not going to, kill
well,
a coil doing that.
Well, no, there's a risk associated with it. It would be much less likely if we did it. But, we suggest if you get our pickups that you leave the cover on. In fact, so much so that it's a warranty issue for us, and that you just enjoy them. Adjust pull screws if you need to. But don't try to turn your gold pickup into a nickel pickup by changing the pull screws or trying to change a four conductor into a braided wire or turn a braided wire into a four conductor. These are all things that can go wrong if you're an amateur, and if you're a professional, we have to be very careful about doing this stuff, because the whole coil setup with a guitar pickup by its nature is a very delicate item. All right. Totally unrelated to Rorschach riffs, though.
Totally unrelated.
But you are going to do your Rorschach riffs, and I am going to get the guitar. You want the Telecaster here, correct?
That's correct.
The black one. Let me get that right now. I will do a drum roll. Okay, let me get a cable for you here, Matthew. Oh, I've got the right angle cable. Is this going to work in this? Were you hooked up to this, or do I need?
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's working.
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Should we show everybody the guitar here,
Show
Matthew?
guitar.
This is you got a capo on there.
I have to have the capo.
Is that a clue as to what these riffs will be, Matthew?
Your custom shop. And what pickups do you have in this?
This has the Broadcaster A3 Classic and a 57 Steelhead neck pickup with long dry Alnico 2.
So I said
These will be offered as a pair as soon as I do the video for the wiring harness, which is our. Oh, I gotta unmute this here. Which will require video, but this is the perfect combo, in my opinion, for a single coil humbucker HS tele setup. Making it sound very pretty there, Matthew. So, do you have? Okay, you got it. Do you need any more dirt or anything?
Yeah, I could probably use it.
Well,
is it not on right now? Is it on right now? No.
It's on. It's on.
Okay.
No, it's on for a humbucker. I usually have a different setting for a Telecaster or a Strat. But these are the kind of the broadcaster A3 classic pickups are fatter sounding and actually go really well with the humbucker, which is why we have it set up for that. And which is, I guess, why Keith Richards prefers a broadcaster style or lap steel pickup, because they're A3 43 gauge higher output Fender pickups. It's a fatter sound, works well with the fatter sound of the humbucker. Okay, let's check with Paul here. Paul, Matthew is quite sure. Are you are you out of stuff to do there?
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay. So we can get the most efficient use of Paul's time here, Matthew.
Did you got his pen ready?
Matthew insists you will know this. You will know these. Okay. Okay, Matthew. Let me get my
Get your pen.
pen. And
Okay.
You can start riffing.
So just a reminder, I'm doing a themed
Hold on
Rorschach riff.
Okay.
I'm doing a themed Rorschach riff because
Theme.
the theme is Keith Richards' Rolling Stones, because they released their 33rd studio album
Okay.
yesterday. Foreign Tongues. Do you know that was the name of it? Foreign Tongues.
I think I did.
And I
read something about
they've
this.
pre-released some tracks on Spotify, but everything is available now.
Oh, it is now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here we go. See if you can recognize any of this.
Okay, we got to see your riffing hand here. Okay. Okay. Now I know the song, and I don't. Hold on.
Let me keep going.
Okay, go ahead. Okay. Okay. All right.
We're already to the end. You're doing very well.
Okay. We're four. This is four.
We're waiting for. The only problem, you get these in your head, then you can't get the next one in your head. Hang on 1 second. This is the problem with these darn things. You're practicing, you're fine, and then when you do them, and you're like, I gotta get this thing in my head. I still haven't got I can't get the thing playing in my head. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Hang on 1 second. Just give me a second.
Is this anxiety producing now for you?
No, it's
I'm going to do next week's, just to give you a little break here.
It's not anxiety. No, it's a funny little thing. It's like, because you practice them, and then it's like, okay, that's fine.
You're
and
at the free throw line, and you've forgotten how to shoot a hoop.
Exactly. When you're thinking, you're stinking. That's the problem.
Okay.
I can't get the. I can't.
Well,
get the
start from the number one before it, and by the time you get to 4, it will reveal itself to you.
I think you're right. Okay, so we'll start it.
Okay.
And you have to move it up to the 5th fret for the next one. Oh, 10th time right there.
Dude, just the riff. You did the whole song now. Okay.
That's what I was practicing. I wasn't just practicing this little
Okay,
tiny bit.
the last one here.
Okay, hang on. I still can't get it in my head. Hang on.
This is a hit?
This is a hit. This was a pretty big hit.
Wait,
off the
okay.
record. I cannot get the darn
What
thing
album?
playing.
What album?
Some Girls.
Some Girls. Okay, to play it again.
But it's Keith Richards. He sings this one. I cannot get the thing playing
I
in my head.
heard that album. Oh, my siblings
Probably-
had that. I heard it over and over.
Same here. So it was like, but this is a bit disappointing because I could do this and I was like, oh, that's a little easier than I thought it was able to do it. But I can't get it played in my head properly. Hang on a second.
But maybe Paul knows it. Paul, what's number 4?
I don't know what any of the songs are. I'm assuming they're all Rolling Stones, though. Is one of them Pizzas Burning?
What's Pizza's Burning?
When Pizza's Burning.
Okay.
Pizza,
all right.
pizza. Pizza's burning.
What's that from?
You see, it's Beast of Burden. He says it's Pizza
Pizza
Burden.
But as a kid, I thought pizza's burning.
That's pretty good, actually. The rhythm part is not right at the beginning.
Okay.
But it's from Some Girls. You know the song.
Okay. So you give us a hint. That's fine. That's fine. Well, you'll give
doing
everybody
it
a hint lyrically, and then we'll maybe figure it out
Okay. I'm going to walk.
before you make me run.
Me run.
Yeah, I know that song.
Right. But I'm not doing the rhythm part at the very, very beginning.
Actually, I don't. It's not got a super distinctive guitar part, does it?
yeah, maybe the lyric
But
more than the guitar part.
yeah, I know the song now. You just said I'm gonna. That's enough. Yeah. They played that a bit in that era. Okay, so I will. Paul does not know any of them. You don't know any of them.
They don't know any of them.
He does, though. He knows.
He's heard them, but he
can't
doesn't. He
associate
doesn't.
these.
He can't identify.
I've heard them. I'm sure I've heard them. I don't recognize most of them though very much.
He just
maybe
knows
slightly.
Pizza's Burning instead of Beast of Burden.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Okay, so number 1, Matthew, do you want to play that real quick?
Sure.
It's Honky Tonk Woman, correct?
No, it's not.
No, Tumbling Dice. Yeah, it's Tumbling Dice. Right?
That's correct.
Yes, sure. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's Tumbling Dice. Okay. Number 2 is Happy.
Correct.
Keith Richards singing. Number 3 is Can't Always Get What You Want.
That's correct.
And number 4 is We Now Know. Gonna Walk Before They Make Me Run. Or is it just, is that the full name of the song?
I'm going to walk.
Or they call it Gonna Walk?
I think it's Before They Make Me Run.
Before They Make Me Run.
That's the name of the song.
Whoops. Okay.
I think that's it there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a distinctive enough riff that I think it would even got a nut from that.
Yeah. That's kind of fun, though.
Yeah, no, but the lyrics distinctive. I remember that quite well. Okay, all right.
And remember that too. That came off of all of his troubles with the RCMP in Canada.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, he was addicted to heroin, and they charged him with trafficking.
Yeah,
but that was for his own, because he's Keith Richards. That was for his own personal use.
Okay. Matthew, do you have musical music?
I have some musical musings.
Okay, let's hear them.
And I have to thank, you can put the first image up, and I have to put
right.
a shout out to the Music Go Round location in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is kind of a cool place if you haven't been to the music around. It's all used gear, and they have a kind of a cool collection of stuff from the
including old magazines
and old sometimes records. I didn't see any records the other day, but they have amps from the 70s. Maybe even I saw some early 60s stuff too, 70s, 80s, everything. But they had some old magazines, and I picked this one up, and I didn't buy it, and then
You got this for the ads though. Partly.
It was interesting, but I made the mistake of I was kind of like my time was up. I needed to go, and I didn't photograph any of it. I should have photographed a little bit of it. I could have purchased it. They wanted $15.
Oh, you didn't buy
for
it?
No,
They wanted $50 for that.
15.
Oh, 50.
15.
Well,
1-5.
If they said 50.
But I was like, I got to hit the road. I had to get back to Grand Rapids. And then I have to give a shout out to my wife Deirdre, who said, "Why don't you do that for musical musings?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know why I didn't even think of that." But thankfully, to AI and to the internet,
You found it.
I found all this kind of stuff that I wanted to cover. So this is a May 1977 issue. Some people will refer to it. This is the first. Bonnie Raitt was the first woman to be on Guitar Player. Technically, she wasn't. Buffy St. Marie was the first woman.
Who's Buffy St. Marie?
She's a Canadian songwriter.
She was on before Bonnie Raitt?
She was on June of 1969.
Oh.
So
Must be folk.
I think it was that period. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's written a lot of big songs. Buffy St. Marie. No,
Like what?
I can't think of it at the top of my head, but I used to know more of her
You're
stuff.
Canadian.
The Saskatchewan song. Did you write that one, or
I don't know.
I should know more. I should know
Okay.
more about Buffy St. Marie, but anyway. So a lot of people say, "Oh, the Bonnie Raitt's cover in 1977 was the first time they had a woman on," which is not totally technically true, but I thought it was interesting looking at it, and for a number of reasons. When you flip open the first page, the editorial talks about that they feel they're going to get a lot of disgruntled letters because they put a woman on the cover of the magazine.
Seriously.
And I don't know if that was true. I don't think that was. Maybe that happened. Maybe it didn't. She talks a little bit about sort of what it's like working as a woman. And by this point, Bonnie Raitt has been recording since 1970. She's just released her 6th record. Do I have the name of that record? I don't think I've got the name of it. But she's like one album a year, basically. And then it wouldn't be until 1988 that she had the Nick of Time record. But some of these albums are good. Like some of the songs on them are good. The production is good on some of those early records too. But when you flip open, the editorial talks about that, and then beside it, there's like an advisory board of people that are on the magazine advisory board, and they've included Michael Bloomfield, Jerry Garcia, Chet Atkins, B.B. King, amongst others.
Wow.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then, but if you go to one of the ads were interesting because the vast majority of them are black and white. There were a few color, but this one I thought was kind of interesting. So this is a very early Mesa Boogie ad.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to note, I didn't know this, they only sold directly
At this point.
in their, their company's existence.
Rainbow Music, which closed here in town, in Grand Rapids, was they claimed they were one of the very first Mesa Boogie dealers because the way they started Mesa Boogie, when they did start taking dealers, the way they advertised it was they put a notice in their ad that they were accepting dealers, and they said they had noticed that immediately and called them up to be a dealer. So I remember them always having Mesa Boogie amplifiers. And
what year do you think it was the first time you saw one there?
Okay, so I started. Well, I talked to you about this. Like, I recognize these amps. I recognized before I started playing guitar that I was looking at guitar magazines. Mm-hmm. You know, that's an interesting thing to think about. How many people started before they started playing guitar, like saw a guitar magazine, like in a newsstand, in a bookstore or, grocery store somewhere, and just started looking through it because they were kind of taken with the idea of how cool it would be to play the guitar. Because I know I was familiar with the magazine before I started playing. So let's say I think it was probably started looking at guitar magazines in 1980. My grandfather played, my grandmother played fiddle and guitar. And when they came to town, they would want to go to a music store. And I don't know if I went to Rainbow Music before I started, I think, playing guitar. I think I probably did when I was sort of like just kind of messing around with an acoustic guitar. So I think I started doing that in 1981. Certainly by the summer of 1981, I was doing that. So I definitely would have been in Rainbow Music in 1981, and they had Mesa Boogie amps, pretty sure. And they had the SOB amps. When I finally realized I want to get an electric guitar, they had the only one Mesa Boogie approaching affordability was the SOB.
Son of a Boogie.
Yeah. And they didn't have Tolex. They had sort of this a black paint with sort of speckle paint on it. So and I played one, and I'm like, I don't quite get it. It was loud, but then it didn't sound that great. I didn't think.
It's kind of just
yeah. Well, I just like. Well, I think it was still figuring out like what I think at the time I didn't even realize what a master volume was. And then when I figured out all of that, they had a Mesa Boogie in there that had a graphic EQ and reverb, and that sounded great. And it wasn't a Son of a Boogie; it was it was way expensive. It was crazy expensive, so it was not close to doable. But yeah, they had them a long time ago. And I mentioned, hey, we'll have this on the show here at some point. But I purchased from one of the owners of Rainbow his Mesa Boogie 15-inch Mark II C Plus combo. It's a 15 Electro Voice 15L speaker in it, and these are ultra rare. And when they were going to close up, he said, "Oh, hey, I'm selling my amp. This is the one you want to get." And I was like, "Okay." And I didn't know anything about Mark II C Pluses. Then I looked it up on the internet. I'm like, I guess it is the one you want to get. Anyway, the thing sounds glorious. And it's got an extension cabinet.
Yep.
And that's super
115
rare.
as well. Yeah. Matching. And it's white Tolex too, isn't it?
Cream Tolex.
Cream Tolex.
And that extension cabinet was owned by, he said, the guy that was, you ain't woman enough to take my band? Loretta Lynn.
Loretta Lynn. Okay.
Her musical director for years was a guy from Grand Rapids. And he bought the same amp setup that Pete from Rainbow had. And at one point he sold Pete back the extension cabinet.
Oh, is that how he got the extension?
Yeah.
Then just going back to the 77 issue, so there were columns by George Gruen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had a column about acoustics. Well, the thing that he covers is acoustics on this issue. There's a column by Tommy Tedesco, a column by Jeff Baxter, Howard Roberts, Barney Kessel.
I remember the Howard Roberts stuff.
Yeah. And there was even a column by Stanley Clark. So
I remember Stanley Clark stuff.
They covered the. So the interview kind of covers Bonnie Raitt's sort of young career, which is interesting because she's 27 when this interview was conducted, and she talks about how she went to school in Cambridge, Massachusetts, originally from California, and then the kind of blues scene there had died down. But she met Dick Waterman, who was the sort of famous manager of all these old sort of blues artists, and she met a lot of them and got into that sort of whole scene. And what's interesting now is that, so many years later, she will be coming to Grand Rapids next month to play at the DeVos Performance Hall, but she's still going strong. And one thing that she did talk about, they asked her a question about amplifiers that she uses and what she thinks about various things about in the amplifier sort of world. So the comment she makes was, I think we're going to see in the future is all custom built amps. There's a guy named Howard Dumble now making amps.
She actually mentioned
for Little Feat and Jackson, meaning Jackson Brown, whose stuff I'll probably start to use soon too. His amps are just the right for a particular sound, like the overdrive that, and she calls them Dave Lindley, the Dave Lindley guitars for Jackson Brown likes to get. That's the only comment.
She for a while used, is it Jim Kelly amps? Is that what they're called?
I don't know. Yeah.
She did use that for a while, which is boutique amp. I think they're called Jim Kelly.
So I'm curious to know, did she ever get, or
I
does
don't know.
she still have a Dumble?
I think I think she's known for the Jim Kelly, using those for quite a while. And I think those are sort of a Dumble-esque in the sense that they're high wattage amps. They kind of have this sort of singing quality, but it's in a combo. Yeah, I don't know. I do know that I think I'm right on the name, the Jim Kelly amp. I know she was known for having used those for quite a while.
So it's interesting though.
Okay, so are we done here, Matthew?
I think that's
We're
all
done?
I've got for my musings today.
Okay, all right. We will. We got to figure out what to call this one. We did. Should we talk? Should the title be? Are influencers too negative?
Possibly, we should go with that.
We should have thought of that one as being the whole subject of the entire Guitar Human. I think it's kind of a good topic. We covered it for a while there, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Until next week, episode 62. 61 is over.
This is 61.
62 will be next week.
Mm-hmm.
And
On the 18th.
for the 62 episode, I will be playing this 1967 Epiphone Riviera for the pickups of the week. We don't make many humbuckers, although I have actually made some of the parts for them.
Mm-hmm.
But the demand is not real high, and they're horribly put together items, the vintage ones and new ones too. This is the dumbest design ever. They sound good, but anyway, I'm not really selling them there. We don't,
don't
sell
think
them.
so.
But if you got a guitar that's got them in them, they're nice. But I'll be playing that guitar for the pickups of the week for episode 62.
Okay. A little
All right.
preview.
All right.
Attractions.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.